name is Wo Chan. I'm 24 years old. I moved to New York when I was 21 after college, back in 2013. I am a poet and a drag performer. Drag. Hold on. What was I saying before?
Racial and ethnic identity in drag. And also...
Oh, right. So when I was in Virginia, I did the type of drag that I did and was sort of beginning, the very beginnings of my drag were just sort of focused on like, how beautiful and conventionally womanly can I look? And that's a certain economy, right? In Virginia, people really celebrated that, or at least in where I was performing. People really celebrated that. People rewarded you for that. They tipped you. They asked you to do shows because you were pretty and entertaining and you know, had a presence just by the way that you looked. And I found that when I did that in New York, it was a thing, but people in New York, you know, sort of have this like seen it all attitude a little more. I could say they just have seen more, right? So I felt this kind of like audience response, you know, that I needed to do more, that I was allowed to do more. A lot of people don't realize that like bodies on a stage are political, you know? They're just as political as the bodies that aren't allowed to be on stage. Aw, I look so beautiful. And political bodies are racialized. We understand them as coming from someone who occupies a certain race and class status and level of ability and gender. That's so integral to drag, but I feel like we try to ignore it because we have this idea that like drag makes us able to be anything, right? But that's not always why people come to drag necessarily, not to be like anything. Most of the queens I saw there were either white or there were a few black queens. So I was sort of an anomaly in terms of like racially, someone who did drag, someone who was like both like young and also Asian. I think I got a good amount of attention because of that.
I'm gonna get a headband to hold my hair up.
So maybe in some ways I knew like in the beginning that like race matters within drag, you know? When I took the stage, people had a specific reaction to like me being racialized. So I would sort of either like play into that or create acts that kind of answered to that. I think there are like people of color in drag performance. I just don't know if we're as exposed to them. I think like a lot of the big venues have mostly white artists. But we have to, I think it's important to remember that like drag is like, I feel like it's an art that has come out of communities of color. And it's in a lot of ways been either co-opted or just like overtaken by like middle-class white performers, queer middle-class white performers. I think in terms of like my own identity within drag or poetry is that I'm an intersection of a lot of different things that I never really got to decide on, right? Like I'm born Asian, I immigrated here because my parents took me here. So I'm Chinese American. I became a citizen and then my citizenship was taken away from me. I never got to decide on either of those processes, right? And now I'm in deportation processes. So that's something I didn't ever make a conscious decision on. I've been in deportation processes for the last 3 years. 5 years ago, I got my citizenship, my US citizenship revoked along with my mom and my dad. And I think in 2011, we were coming back and they like pulled us aside. They took our passports and stuff right there. I wish we had known what was going on because I would have, asked for a lawyer right then and there. But like, we had no clue, because like we didn't know what. We thought our citizenship was, like legitimate, right? Like as legitimate as any citizenry is. So we were pulled aside. They took our passports, which made it actually very difficult for us to get back into the country because we were stuck at Dulles for a while. And this was before we got any legal help either, so we didn't really know what was up.
Yeah.
And we had to denounce our citizenry. We had to like, when a letter came in the mail asking us to denounce our citizenry, they're pinning the blame on us when it's the judge or the supervisor who literally made thousands, right?
Yeah.
And off of a community that like barely knows English. So it's like, that's just not how power works, Like he knew what he was doing. And I'm lucky, like I'm one of the lucky people who actually like A, have a hearing. Like a lot of people don't get hearings, they just straight up get deported. And B, have connections that allow me to create a GoFundMe account and ask people for help. There's so many privileges that I'm relying on, and access to language, like access to language community. Being of a certain class or having gone to college, that was the uncomfortable part of the GoFundMe, was that I knew that I was relying on a lot of my privileges to get support from my networks. I had to talk about how I was a poet and how I'm a performer, and I grew up here and my parents worked so hard their whole life. When the reality is, it's like no one should get deported, like I don't think we should have borders. How are we? I don't know. It's just like, who are we to say that like this land is like where you can't enter and like this land is not? It's like, it's just bullshit. My politics isn't like a conscious decision for me. I feel like it's the only mind frame and ideology that I have that helps me survive in a very realistic, honest sense. Like what are the communities that are like willing to bat for me, Like what are the communities that are like really care about caring for other people and caring for people who don't have very much. And those are like radical communities of color who may not support electoral politics as they stand, who don't support capitalism and don't support the idea of like making it through money, So, these past 2 years, I've really have had to face like the reality of my identity, and it has led me to these politics. That like we shouldn't have borders. That capitalism cares primarily about capital and not people. And it's a system that leaves people behind, you know, that says that some people are disposable and other people are worth it, but ultimately what's really worth it is profit. So, I mean, I think that's it's all connected together. Where if you think that some people are disposable, of course you're going to deport people, right? It's just something I'm starting to confront more head on in this part of my art making. I think anything I make, whether it's a poem I write or a drag performance, is a work of Asian American art. And I put American in quotes because, you know, America's trying to deport me, so I don't know what I don't know what it means to be Asian American, right? Yeah, my whole like question of national identity has been thrown into question, or you know, has been complicated at this point. I guess what I'm saying is that you don't really know what a person under deportation processes looks like, right? Like you don't know what a queer person looks like or how they live their life, or someone, yeah. You don't know what like a gender queer person looks like. It's those narratives are a lot more complicated than we like to imagine.